There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Sweet. So let's start with discussing specific examples from the video that relate to the concept covered or the concepts covered in chapters 7, 5, and 6 of the text. What parallels did you guys find from the video?
Uh, oh, shoot. Well, when that one guy, I don't know, he's bald and had some big teeth, but he conducted a focus group and figured out that a decent way of marketing towards consumers is to treat them or to treat something like a cult. So, um, appealing more emotionally and less logically and intuitively.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Um, I like how in chapter 5, like they talked about like databases and like emailing and like specified marketing like to different people. And like in the documentary, they also talked about like, like when they run their like political campaigns, how like they'll like send specific people out to talk to like specific voters that care about specific issues in order to like try and sway them one way or the other. And I find like like I find that like a lot of the marketing that I experience is like really personalized. Like if you ever like enter your like your name and number into like basically any system, you'll have all these companies like texting you like on a first name basis or like
Mhm.
emailing you being like, "Oh, like so and so, hey, like what's up?" And all that comes from like data mining and like databases and stuff like that, and how like that is like kind of the new currency. And like a lot of these like higher up tech companies are basically like starting to like buy and like sell data from each other. Like Facebook is so valuable because they can collect so much data on their users and then like sell that off to other companies like who are trying to market to specified like groups of customers and people. And
Mhm.
that I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
thought that was also connecting to like what is still relevant today. Because like if you look on if you're looking something up on the internet or just talking about something, the next day if you check your like TikTok or Instagram, the next thing you see is an ad in your algorithm. So I feel like
Mhm.
um that's what a lot of advertising is doing, is that targeting your personal algorithm, because if they're just sending out ads to whoever and not being specific, it just like hits a brick wall. So I feel like
Yeah,
that is a relevant thing today because you can see it everywhere.
Indeed.
Well,
big time. Yeah,
this,
I don't know if you got. Oh, sorry.
no, you
Uh,
got it.
I don't know if like you guys have checked out the Facebook Meta business at all and how they do that. They like connect through Instagram and YouTube and all that, but they have like all the sections of like all the interest that you want when you're putting out ads. Like I've done ads for lacrosse shafts before, and it will show like once people look up lacrosse shafts, lightest lacrosse shafts, blah blah blah, attack shafts, it all just goes straight to their feed, which that's
Yeah,
pretty
because like
much all
it
of it works today.
I was gonna say like Instagram or Meta has basically turned Instagram into like a large like targeted advertising platform. Like that's basically what it's
100%.
for now. And the other
Yeah.
thing that I was gonna talk about is like a lot of the stuff about like in the documentary was like about how ads are changing and about how like
Mhm.
like they're complaining about like, oh, like the 30-second commercial ad like isn't really working anymore. And then this relates back to chapter 6 with like target markets and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
now we've got like basically walking like
Oh shit.
people are ads now. Like you've got like all these influencers who are constantly promoting these things and like their personality basically like sells the product and like does the advertisement for the company. And like so like in like, certain niches, like if there's somebody in that certain niche that everybody listens to, why not just like buy them and their fans instead of like forcing out like a 30-second like targeted ad or like some email or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Found
The
that interesting.
one this little piece is anecdotal, but I don't use social media too often or at all. I guess the only one I use is YouTube, mostly for like, informational. Like I need to figure out how to do this or
That must
stuff
be
like that.
nice.
Yeah. And my advertisements suck ass. They are so bad. Like, like there was like I used to use them, and then I was like, oh, I'm done, finished.
Mm.
And then there was like a steep drop off of my advertising being really bad. So like I don't fit into like a target market that they have a specified advertisement for. And granted, yeah, I still see advertisements literally everywhere, and they are given to me, but they're bad. They're really bad. I don't know. And then like touching on what was said a little earlier, I sell shoes. Like that's my job. And one of the largest shoe companies now, they're called OnCloud or On. And they teamed up with Roger Federer to make a couple shoes. And Roger Federer the company didn't reach out to Roger Federer. The company just saw Roger Federer wearing their shoes, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to make a special line with us?" And then once they've created that line, it is easier for me to sell shoes because I go, "Oh, do you know Roger Federer, one of the most famous tennis players of all time? He wears this company. He actually collaborated with this company to create this shoe." And they like individuals have a huge, or not individuals, but high profile individuals, like high I individuals, have huge influences on markets and marketing. But
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, that's just like
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
Nike and Adidas goes and all that. They always got their cover athletes for. I'm pretty sure Travis. You guys probably know Travis Hunter just signed with Adidas. It's like the main thing for those types of athletic wear companies.
yeah, and then
I think that reminds me kind of like the cult advertising kind of concept they were talking about because like people will follow if they see their favorite artist on an ad for something, they're like, okay, that's the brand that I'm going to follow. Whereas if they see someone random that they don't really know, it's like it doesn't hit them as much. But I think like in the video, they like were targeting fans of certain things in their marketing. And so I feel like that kind of linked to that cult mindset. It's like you follow who you know.
Mhm.
Well, and it's just like all the perfume ads going out right now. Like there's the Johnny Depp commercial and perfume's been using a lot of different celebrities to advertise all of their stuff.
yeah,
Mhm.
And especially with the fact that like streaming services are now charging more to get it with no ads. People are starting to see ads a lot more.
yeah, and then oh,
Well, it's interesting because they talked about how cable was basically stealing revenue from them.
Yeah.
Like in the documentary, they were like, "Oh, like all the TV's like transitioning to cable, and like people can just skip our ads. Like it's unbelievable. What do we do?" And it's like during that time, you did see like a short lull in like the advertisements like and how many people saw them or who they were getting to. But then like the advertisers just started offering the cable companies money. So the cable companies made the ads unskippable and then threw them throughout their programming. So it's like it's and then and then cable gets over and then it gets into the streaming things where now they're charging a premium for no ads and like all this different stuff. So it's
what?
like it's not really worrying about like are the advertisements going to go away? It's like what form are they going to come through next?
Yeah, and like one interesting thing about like streaming services now, I guess, like all my roommates and I, we have a Roku, and the Roku doesn't have a power button. So you can't turn the Roku off. It is constantly on unless you turn the TV off. So slowly, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, there was no advertisements on their little screensaver, and now they are just inundated with advertisements, advertising like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They have actual billboards, and it's just a scroll of a city, and they have like, I guess subconscious or unconscious advertising to people just sitting in a room talking and not actually watching content.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well,
into like the
like,
kind of like the cult mentality because like in the documentary like there's those like the guys with the weird hairlines and the funny accents who are like this works. And they're like talking like that part struck me as kind of funny because it was like none of their methods are like
Mhm.
quantitative or like provable or like repeatable. Like they're
Yeah.
just like kind of after this like sort of esoteric definition of like what good marketing is. And I thought that was like really funny. And they're selling it for a lot of money. So I think they were just kind of like marketing their own services or their like consulting abilities, like in the documentary.
Yeah.
Um, but like getting back into that point of like them talking about like creating like kind of that cult like brand imagery and like a lot of the symbolism we see now, like how often a day do you think you guys see like the Nike swoosh? Like it is everywhere if you pay
Oh,
attention.
mm,
Or like just like even like small brand symbols. Like everything has like, their like little specific brand logo that is like kind of subconsciously like throwing it in your head like, oh, like you want to be like associated with us or like you want to wear like this kind of stuff and like to create like that like sort of social image of yourself because like now like like Nike did not used to be like, like a sort of like super expensive like luxury sportswear kind of brand like Lululemon kind of is, but like now I'm kind of like watching Nike delve more towards like the like all their pants and t-shirts are like $100 now, and like all of like the new stuff that they make is like exorbitantly expensive. So they're kind of like it seems like their company is like trying to price out like a certain segment of the population, like sort of keep that brand identity, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, and
But
I
if
think
you,
kind of like create like this iconicness to the brand. And that's what they talked about in the
With
documentary too, was a lot of brands are trying to make this iconic staple. Like Nike is like, if you see that swoosh anywhere, it's Nike. And I think it just promotes itself, like even without an ad. Like if you just see a swoosh, you think Nike. And so
Mhm.
I think like that iconic factor that brands are starting to make, that you can just know certain symbols, it advertises in itself.
and then one thing I'd like to touch on a little bit is, I mean, they did a lot of, uh, I don't know, they interviewed a lot of people that were working on Delta's subsidiary company Song or like Cheap Airlines, and they
mhm.
tried to make song like the word song and adjective used throughout culture, and it didn't work because song was already a word in culture, but
Yeah.
Instagram was not a word in culture, and if you make your brand a part of culture and create a new word and new verbiage around the word, the language used is very, very important. And song, I mean, crashed and burned, didn't do so hot.
I was gonna
Well,
say
not
I like
necessarily. Delta crashed and burned, and song consequently crashed and burned. But
I was
more
gonna say I
recently,
hadn't heard of Song and like or I've never heard of
Oh,
Song
yeah,
I
that
was
was
before.
like, I
actually
had
kind of wonder
never
in
heard
the
of Song.
documentary.
yeah. But the what I will say is song had really crazy, not crazy. Um, a lot of the products they offered to customers were really good, and Delta decided to keep them. They were the first ones, or one of the first airline companies to put in-seat entertainment, so like TVs in front of the seat, and they kept that. They had leather seats or suede seats or something, um, and Delta kept that. And now Delta's more. I mean, I actually just watched a documentary like an hour and a half long about how Delta navigated through COVID, and so I guess kind of referring back to some older chapters, but um, when the U.S. economy was struggling, they when the U.S. economy was struggling due to COVID and nobody was traveling or doing anything, they had to increase um, their shipping rate. So instead of doing passenger airline stuff, they would ship personal protection to X, Y, and Z. And their department or the shipping department was like 2% of the revenue, and now or during COVID it was up like 17 or 18%, and now it's almost I don't know what it is now, but I assume it's probably larger than it was pre-COVID.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and they definitely I don't know. Delta navigated COVID really well. They did a pretty good job.
I thought
Um,
the song portion of the documentary was like pretty interesting because of like the commercial that they were trying to make, like where it's just like people like running through a field and like just like hanging out, I guess. Like I thought that was like it wasn't like the premise of the ad that like the song logo or like name wasn't even in the ad. And like they did like
Mhm.
a poll and only like 15-ish% of their of like the viewees like understood like what brand it was or like what the meaning behind the ad was. So it's
Mhm.
like trying to create that like iconic like sort of like brand imagery or like brand identity is like it's kind of hard to do, and it's especially not well done with like a random video of like people like being happy for like an
Mhm.
airliner and like
Well, sorry. The thing is, like, a lot of advertisements these days are a lot like that now, though. They don't put their stuff until like the very end of the ad. But like we said with Nike, you see the swoosh and you automatically know that it's a Nike ad.
when
And that's
was the
kind
last time you've seen a Nike ad though?
But
I've
when was the,
seen a Nike
I
ad
yeah,
actually I
ever.
watch
Yeah, it's
Hulu. I watch Hulu and I've had quite a few ads come through. I actually just watched a Nike ad the other day though.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the thing though, is like now this company's up and going and it doesn't need to have as many ads out as it used to.
Hmm.
Um,
well,
and it's
also
kind of the same with Under Armour.
that
But sorry, go ahead.
no, you keep going.
But so Nike did really well when they first started marketing, and now, like we said, you see the swoosh and it's advertising all in itself when someone wears their clothing and all of that. But that's what a lot of companies are now doing. Whether in their advertisement they use another well-known company to help advertise their stuff, or they just have a repetition of their symbol and they know, and people will start like connecting the dots and knowing what ad is going to what company.
The oh, I would like to talk about like the dispersion of ads because historically everybody in the country would see one ad. Like everybody, I'm not sure which Super Bowl it was, but everybody remembers Mountain Dew's Puppy Monkey Baby. Like, that's a really good ad, controversial. It's not, I don't know, it's like it's just strange, it's uncanny. And now whenever you see ads, the whole country doesn't see an ad. It's 20,000 people that see an ad. So there's no big cultural revolution for an ad or against an ad or for a company or against a company. It's
Hmm.
20,000 people in one area are like, that's a good ad. And then 40,000 people in another area are like, that's a shitty ad. That's bad. And they won't send that advertisement to those 40,000 people anymore because the market has been segmented to such degree where no cultural understanding can occur.
I was
So
also gonna say like talks about like buying decisions like and like consumer basically choices and like behavior and how like basically like the brand identity and like consumer choices aren't necessarily rational, so like people aren't really looking for like like the best bang for their buck. They're like looking to like basically like create their like everybody is kind of a walking ad now, like which is kind of funny because the brands have like gotten us the consumer to like basically be an advertisement for like whatever specific brand you're like wearing or like whatever car you drive. You're probably not gonna be like, oh, my car sucks. Like you're probably not gonna be like, oh, my clothes are the worst clothes. You're gonna be like, no, like my clothes are pretty cool and this is what brand they are. So it's like they like clothing brands and like Apple and like the real like product companies have done like a fantastic job of like really creating that self self advertisement, like just kind of like propagating itself, like look at this cool thing, it is this specific brand, and like that's kind of it. There's like a specific target population that can have this, and like a lot of people's choices aren't like, oh, am I in that demographic that should have this? They're like, oh, I want to be in that demographic that has that. Like the iPhone has that kind of value, like like they make the Verizon text or like Samsung text green. Like they have like, the exclusive value of the iPhone. And like everybody's got an iPhone. And it's like really like of cultural significance, at least in our generation.
not only that,
And
but
interesting.
oh, but one thing iPhone does really well is making you buy another iPhone.
Mhm.
Their iPhones last 2, 3 years, and then
Yeah.
they just like on it, it's not even just iPhone. It's literally every phone company or every company ever. Because if you purchase a product and it lasts your lifetime, you're not going to buy again. There's no reason to buy again. And iPhone has like, oh, the iPhone 17 came out and it has a better camera. Or I'm not sure what iPhone we're on now, but some iPhone came out and it has this feature that you need in your life. And it's not necessarily addressing a consumer problem. It's creating a problem and then solving and selling you the solution to the problem. So if you like, the ethics of pointing out problems is fine, but the ethics of creating a problem, solving the problem, and then selling the solution, not very good. I understand ethics wasn't in this chapter, but it's something I thought about. Because a lot of times companies will go, or at least, I mean, even in my life, like I'm about to go sell shoes in an hour, and I'll go, oh, you know, your shoes are dirty. If you want to keep them clean, here's this product. And it's not like I muddied his shoes or anything. But it helps if somebody comes into my store with muddied shoes. They come in with a problem, I have a solution for it. And if they didn't, I have my own shoes and they're not clean. I clean my own shoes and say, this is how good my product works. Buy this product. So if you give them a fake problem or create a problem and then solve or sell the solution, it's a really, really good, well, good business decision. Maybe not good cultural decision, really good business decision.
Indeed.
No.
I think it's also like the building credibility for a product, like Apple versus I don't know, like Galaxy, for instance. Like people keep buying the new Apple iPhones, even though it's basically the exact same. Are you still gonna buy it because Apple's created this like credibility that like, okay, well, I've been with Apple and everyone likes Apple. Apple's iconic, so I'm just gonna keep buying. Like, I think for example, like my mom, she really likes the like flip phone thing with, I think it's Galaxy, but she said she's not going to buy Galaxy. She's going to wait till Apple comes out with it. So she likes the idea of Galaxy's flip phone factor, but since it's not that Apple brand that she's been with and she knows like Apple is that big, she's not going to buy it until her company comes out with it. So I think it's like they've built that credibility.
Well, I think that would also be a case of just irrational consumer or an irrational consumer. It's not like you're breaking any laws, but you're like, my company doesn't make it, I'm not going to buy it. And then my company does make it, I'm going to buy it. Like my culture, my cult.
That cultish, I think.
Yeah.
I think we pretty well covered all the topics in the prompt. You guys have any other golden nuggets to give to the conversation?
One, I'm not sure which one you guys watched, but I found on YouTube like the longer version. It's like an hour and a half long instead of an hour. I'm not sure what they cut out and what they didn't cut out. But in the one that I found, they talked about, or who is it? Frank Lentz talked about, they talked about the word lab, which was a huge thing when I was a kid. And I remember my parents talking about it and me hearing it on the radio. I didn't know what it was. And honestly, I still haven't done tons of research to figure out what the word lab does. But by understanding consumers' response to specific verbiage used in campaigning and specific things. Yeah, estate tax to death tax. I found 2% or 2 out of every 1,000 Americans pay estate tax or death tax. And those are only 2 large estates. Like if you die with a couple $1 million, you're probably going to pay an estate tax or death tax. But they abolished that bill because they changed the name. Or not that bill, but they abolished that policy. Because they changed it to something a little more scary. And then global warming, climate change.
Tax relief. Yeah, like tax cuts to tax relief to try and like be like, oh, like it's a good thing.
Yeah. And it really depends on where you fall economically and your political opinions, but there's definitely manipulation in every single word of every single policy given.
Indeed.
Or attempted manipulation. It might not work, it might work. But one like I also worked as a canvasser for a while. I was canvassing for like CI-128, CI-127 in Montana, which are like it changes the way you elect officials, and then it's an abortion bill, so it allows abortions. It protects abortion rights in America or Montana, not in America. And we had very specific lines that we would use throughout our pitch to try to get people to sign our board. And it worked. Sometimes people were like, I don't care what you're saying, and they'd sign it. But others would talk to you for an hour and a half about their leg getting blown up in Vietnam. And then they'll sign your board eventually. But it's, I don't know. There's a lot of, a lot of political manipulation. Political manipulation. Like one of the greatest campaigns of all time was the Make America Great Again campaign, if you ask me. He is probably the greatest salesman I've ever seen in my entire life. That guy could sell fucking paper to a tree. Like, he's good. That's, yeah. And just 5 simple words, make America great again. 4 simple words. And it resonates with over half the American population. You know, like it implies America's not great. I will change that. Fantastic. And that's not necessarily manipulation. It's just, well, depends on how you define manipulation. But it's pretty cool.
Sweet. Well, did we cover everything?
I mean, basically, like
Oh, you froze out there.
like what did it get wrong? What did it get right? We kind of already went over it, and then I don't know. Is there any other topics that you guys would like to bring up?
No, I think everything's been brought up.
Well, one more.
Or
Oh, so I'm going to go on a little. I've already been on a rant, but I might continue. I think going into the future, there's going to be more segments of. There's going to be more like huge data, huge swaths of data, and sifting through all of it, you know, adds to clutter. But when companies can cut through it and get to their target demographic, like if you're selling literally anything for any price to 500 customers who are completely loyal to you, you'll, like Amway is a really, really decent example of this, I guess. I got pitched Amway yesterday at my shoe store. Like somebody was trying to sell me Amway. I was like, I'm not going to go be a part of a multi-level marketing scheme or a pyramid scheme. But he gave me a good pitch, and he has 20 clients, and it's paying the bills for him. That's it. I mean, small groundwork is pretty important.
Oh yeah, big time.
Indeed.
All right, are we good?
All righty. I think we're
Think we're good.
good.
Okay.
Number 2.